Hello YouTube! In the previous tutorial, I showed you all how to add CSS icons and character selection portraits to the game while using the BrawlEx clone engine. Now, if you were to try to play with those character selection icons and character selection portraits on a Nintendo Wii, the game would have frozen. And also, if you tried to play even on Dolphin, anything but a stock match, or rather anything but a time match, the game would have frozen as well. And that's because we didn't have battle portraits or result screen portraits. So, this tutorial is going to be a part 2 to the previous tutorial that'll cover everything that we didn't cover in the last tutorial. So, in this one, you're going to notice I have all these files right here and three actually extra textures than I had before. But just like before, you can just export them from the file and edit them or just re-import them with a different name. Now, these files, you're probably not going to be able to use the ones off of an ISO dump or anything, because in my experience it's been crashing the game. That might not be the same for you, but at least it has been for me. So, I will upload all of these files and I'll put them in the description, the finished version and the unedited version that we're starting with. So, you're going to notice that there's two info files. One of them's a .bres and one of them's a .pack. We're going to need to make folders for these so we don't get all confused, and it's going to be the folder hierarchy in the SD card anyway. So create a new folder called info, another new folder called info2, and a new folder called menu. Now, inside of info, make a new folder called port right. Then, in menu, create a new folder called common. And in that folder, make a new folder called char underscore bust underscore text. This is where our result screen portraits are going to go. And inside of info is where our battle portraits are going to go. Now, this tutorial will also show you how to add this name underneath the character selection portrait on the character selection screen, as well as the stock icons and the mark, as in the franchise icon that appears somewhat translucent on the character selection portraits and on the result screen. So now that we have this folder hierarchy, we're going to want to put the info.bres, this one right here, in info. Just the normal info. And then these three, info training mg, and info.pack, go in info2. These two files, this is the module, or rather the stage file for the result screens. Now, I don't know particularly why it crashes if you don't have this file, but it will crash if you don't have this file. So this will also be included in the description and in the pack. And this file we've already worked with, the scselectCharacter.pack file. So for simplicity, let's go ahead and open up scselectCharacter.pack and do some more edits. We're already used to this file, so that's why I'm going to start here. Well, the first thing that we want to do is, since we want to add stock icons, we're going to have to add them in here. So, right-click, import, texture, and get your stock icon. Just hit OK. Now you can just export one of these and edit it. These can be any colors you want, but the other files that I'm going to be showing you for the mark are very specific. So we'll get onto those in a moment. Now, go ahead and open up your MISC Data 30 and open up textures. You'll see these name things that we've already worked with before. I told you I didn't know how to get them to work before. Well, I figured it out now, and I'm going to show you guys how. This is also where we add the mark, the franchise icon that'll be appearing on the character selection portrait. you also have to add the mark to every single other file pretty much that we're going to be working with. So it's going to become very repetitive. So one thing we want to do in order to import the name is, same as we did before, import texture, grab the name, hit OK, and this one is going to stay, no, this one we're going to have to erase the S in the name. So go ahead and rename that 110.1 because that's the cosmetic ID that we added for our clone. The next thing we want to add is the mark. Now, I named mine 21, but you can, you know what, just name yours 21. It'll keep everything really simple because the game actually does have an icon called 20, but I just deleted mine on accident and didn't feel like putting it back in. So just name yours 21 and remember that number. Now, open anim text pat and open up CName. Open up both these folders, and same as before, we're going to have to add a new entry. Change it to 110.1 and the name 110.1. Do the same in the other folder. Exact same thing. They're both going to be for the name 110.1. 110.1. Now for CName, we've got to change the frame count to one number higher than our ID, than the last thing that we added, which was 110.1. So this is going to be 111.1. Now for the mark. The game comes with 20, so your number here is going to be 21. But again, I deleted mine, so I just named it 20 to avoid any conflicts that might have happened. So you're going to want to change this to 22 because the one we're going to be adding is 21. So new entry, change the frame index to 21, and double click on that. It should change to this, and change that to 21. Now we should be done with MISC data 30. We can go ahead and save it. And our character selection screen should be good to go if it would close. Now, go ahead and into your info 2 or info, whichever one you want to start with first. They're pretty much the same, but we'll start with info. Open up info.bres. If it doesn't show right here because you have a different view for Windows, it should say it right here. Open info.bres and open up textures. You'll see in here that these names are all different. These ones have an S. They're a lot smaller. These are the ones that I believe go underneath your battle portrait. So, see how I told you that the game had one under 20? In this file, it is still there, which is why I named mine 21 and decided to, for all the rest of the files, just keep it simple and name it 21. So, same as before, right-click, import texture, and we're going to import the mark, and the name. This one can stay with the S that we renamed from the other one. So men, cell, CHR, CHR again, NMS, then 110.1. Now that we've imported these two textures, we can go ahead and open anim text pat and go to inf face. This will have all of our textures, the references to our textures for the name. So go ahead and hit new entry, new texture, name it 110.1, double click, 110, 1. This one doesn't have two folders, so we can just leave it at that. And open up inf mark. Actually, we're getting ahead of ourselves. Change this to 111, 1. Because that's one higher than the number of the last one that we added. Now, before we forget, let's change the frame count on inf mark to 22. Now, right click, new entry. This, if you already have 20 in there, should automatically be set to 21. But if it's not, just set it to 21. Double click, change this to 21. Save it. And that's it. The next three files will be pretty easy because they're the same and we can just export them and re-import them like we did for the CSS icons. So open misc data 30. You'll see this is exactly the same as before. We can go ahead and import texture. Let's import the mark. And import the name. Just make sure everything's named correctly. Now, anim text pat, inf face, change this to 111. Change inf mark to 22. Go ahead and add a new entry for the mark. Change this to 21. And for inf face, hit new entry. Make this 110, 1. Double click. 110, 1. Hit enter. And that should be it. Now here's where things get really, really easy. Just go ahead and export this somewhere. Then save this file. And open up the next file. Hover over misc data 30 and either right click or hit Control R to replace it with the one we just exported. Save it. Open info training. Replace it. And save it. Now, we need to make two more files from scratch. You'll see there's nothing in these portrait and charbus text folders. We need to create those from scratch, but that's not that hard. Just go to any file that can be opened in BrawlBox and hit File, New, BRRes Resource Pack. Right click, Import, Texture. Now, one of them is going to be the result screen portrait, and the other one's going to be the battle portrait. For the battle portrait, which we'll do first, I'm going to use the icon, the character selection icon that I made for the clone. So go ahead and grab that, or whatever you're going to be using. Now, normally you would import more than one of these, one for each color, but since we only have one entry in our sc select character.pack file anyway, we are only going to add one. Change this to CMPR because it significantly reduces the file size by half, and rename it to 110, 1. Hit OK. Now, this is where the naming gets tricky since we're making a new file from scratch. I'll go ahead and just write this down for a moment. You might want to remember these. Press pause on the video if you have to, but I have them copied. For the battle portrait, we're going to have to name the entire new file inf face 1101, 110 with a 1 added to the end. So go ahead and File, Save As, and save this somewhere as inf face 110 with a 1 added to the end. Exit this, and you'll see that this is the new file that it made. When you open it, you'll see it up here. Everything is good. Go ahead and put this in Info, Portrait. This will be inf face 110, 1. Now, we're going to do the same thing for the battle portrait. Excuse me, the results screen portrait. Import, texture. I'm going to use this, which is the same as our character selection portrait. I'm going to change it to CMPR. And this can stay 110.1. Save as. And this one is going to be men cell CHR face B, then 110, which is our cosmetic ID, with a 0 added to the end. So go ahead and copy that, pause the video, write it down, whatever you need to do, and then save the file as that. Now normally in here there would be one for each color of the character that you're making, but again, we only made one, so we're only going to use one. Now, these two files, or rather the file we just made and the one we made beforehand, have their own spot in their folders. Take the one that we just made and put it in menu, common, char, bus, text. There we go. And now we can exit out of that. Now the last thing that we need to do is open STG result. Open up 2, and we're going to need to go down to MISC data 110. If you look in here, there's actually nothing to tell you that you need to put the marks in here, the franchise icons. But this is where we put the franchise icons, otherwise it'll freeze when you go to the results screen. So in MISC data 110, click import, texture, and men cell CHR mark 21. Hit open, hit OK. Now we can close out textures and open anim text pat. And you'll see that, no, wait, we don't have to edit anything in anim text pat for that. On the other hand, in here we can put all of these stock face entries. So, I don't know if inside here is all of our stocks or not. No, they're not. It would be in one of these folders here. There it is. Inside of MISC data 120, go ahead and import your stock. Name an inf stc.1101. Hit OK. And now we can get rid of this. Open back up MISC data 110. Go to anim text pat, inf stock face, and we're going to add one in here. So hit new entry, go to new texture, name this one 110.1. Excuse me, no, it doesn't need to be 110.1 unless that's exactly what we named our stock, which to my knowledge is just 110, and it's not. Go ahead and rename that to just 110. Go to new texture, frame index 110. Whoa. All right. Oh no, you know what? I think it did need to be 110.1. Yep, it did. Well, that might cause some issues. So if you did make an issue, you messed up, you can just right click and hit restore, and it'll change everything back to the way it was before we messed with it, at least in that particular thing. So now we're gonna go ahead and add a new entry again, and just keep everything 110.1. 110.1. Inf stock 110.1. Enter. There we go. Inf stock 110.1. Now we need to change this inf stock to reflect the changes that we made on the inside. The last frame that we added was inf stock 110, 1. So we're going to change this, just like everything else, to 111, 1. Hit enter. Now we should be good to go. We should just be able to save this and add these to our SD card now. So go to win image if you're using Dolphin, or onto your SD card. I'm going to have to go ahead and open it because I just changed all of my files, locations. No, wait. Gameplay, emulators, Wii, Dolphin, user, Wii, SD. Open it. Go to private, Wii app, RSP, PF. Now we're going to put these on the root of this. The root of your PF folder. All 3 of these folders. Put those in there. You already know where to put SC select character. Where are you? There you are. Click yes, replace. And we're going to need to make a new folder. So on your SD card, make a new folder, or if you're in WinImage, go to Image, Create Folder, name it Stage, and inside of that folder, make another folder called Melee, M-E-L-E-E. In there, put STG result. And that should be it for pretty much everything. The last thing we need to do is go into the cosmetic config for the character that we did all these changes for. Open it in your hex editor, and at 0x14, so 10, 4, change this to 1 number in hex. Here, I'll explain. Open up your calculator, and the mark that we added was decimal number 21. In hex, that's 15. Now minus that by 1, you get 14. So it's the hex number of the number you added for the mark. Change that to that. So this is going to be 14. Hit save. Put it back on your SD card. Click yes. Save. Now let's open Dolphin and hope everything worked. Desktop. Oh no. Computer. OSC. Things I do. Gameplay. Emulators. Wii. Dolphin. ROMs. There we go. Don't tell me you couldn't find any ISOs. That's a freaking lie. Let's see. Computer. OSC. Things I do. Gameplay. Emulators. Wii. ROMs. That should have my ROMs in it. Come on. Work. There we go. Make sure that Super Smash Bros. Brawl is set as the default ISO. Open Gecko. And launch the game. If everything works, we should have our custom battle portraits, names, stock icons, pretty much the whole shebang. And if we did everything right, it shouldn't freeze on the results screen, and we should be able to play stocks. There's our slot. Open it. Right there, it says Pikachu X, just like what we added. Go ahead and click this. Put on CPU of some form. Go ahead and test everything out. Hopefully it doesn't crash when we go to the results screen. I've been having some issues with that, mainly because I haven't been doing things right. There we go. It says Pikachu X down there. Now if we exit, it didn't crash. Our mark is not showing up though. Oh, you know what? We added the wrong mark. The wrong one. Let me go ahead and show you guys what you need to do in order to fix that. Go ahead and get your STG result back. Open up MISC data 110. In textures, the mark that we added was this one, which is black. Now I told you that we had two different ones for the mark. One that we added beforehand for the character selection screen. That one, black is going to be transparent and white is going to be red. For this one that we added into the stage results, this one has to be transparent with only white as the other color. Now the white is going to show up on the results screen. Little goof on my part. Just go ahead and replace it with that one. That is weird. Go ahead and hit recommend. Hit OK. Hopefully that doesn't screw it up. I hope. Pretty sure I did this earlier and it didn't screw it up. Let's see. C18? PR? Oh, well, whatever. Go ahead and save this. Replace it on your SD card in stage. Save. Open it in Dolphin. And this time we'll check to see if stock mode works without freezing. If everything goes according to plan, which it almost never does, then we should be all set up. The stock icons might not work. I didn't really test it. I just found that folder right before doing this tutorial. So if the stock icons don't work, it's not going to cause a crash or anything. You don't have to worry about that. It'll just be a little question mark, which is perfectly acceptable considering they're clones. They don't really need stock icons. They only appear in the top left corner of the character, or no, the stage selection screen anyway, and on the results screen, I suppose. Do you see that little icon right there? That's our mark that we added for the character selection screen. Let's go ahead and change this to stock.
Survival.
And we'll go ahead and test this out. It's loading. There's our icon. There's our text. We should probably make it bigger. You can edit yours to be bigger and more obvious if you want. Let's go ahead and exit.
No contest.
And it still didn't appear. That's probably because the picture was messed up and it didn't want to be completely black and white or transparent and white. The reason for that, I have no idea. Probably because there's this yellow edge here, which is a little bit strange. I don't feel like editing it on camera for you guys. Just make sure that everything else is transparent And this circle, or rather, the edges are white. It has to be completely white with a transparent everything else. Otherwise, it will not appear. And so, yeah. Everything else except for that worked. Incidentally, I didn't check to see if we had seen our stock icons. It doesn't look like we did. But that doesn't really matter. Now you guys won't get crashes. This is the part 2 to the CSS icon tutorial, and I'll see you guys later.